You know, as a content creator, I buy a lot of stuff to help make my content better or just to streamline the creation process. While we all know that it can turn into a bit of a rabbit hole of buying stuff you really don't need, I do think that there's a good amount of stuff that is a good investment and can help bring your workflow to higher heights. The studio display is something I've always wanted because I thought it would help me do that. But it is $1,599 starting, which is insane. There are cheaper alternatives that are almost as good as the studio display. Why not those? Should you even get the studio display? How much money is worth spending on the studio display? And will it make your art better? Let's talk about it. So really quick, if you don't know, Apple released a display about 2 years ago. 27 inches, 5K resolution. It has speakers. It has a face cam with center stage. It's got all of the bells and whistles. It's single cable plug-in, Thunderbolt, any device you want, you're off to the races. The display is really interesting for a couple reasons as well. For one, there really isn't anything like it on the market. There are some similar displays, but they all end up falling short in one way or another with one spec, one feature here or there. The second reason this display ends up being really interesting, for better or worse, is it is $15.99. It is really expensive, and that's before you get an anti-glare texture or even a height adjustable stand. And I never got one because of that price. But recently, I found a really good discount through Best Buy Open Box. I'll tell you how much I paid for it in a little bit here. But first, I want to talk about why the display might be worth buying in general. But first, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. Magtame is a company that focuses on making high-quality cables that also are able to coil with magnets. This keeps them out of the way and your desk space super clean. I've been really enjoying the handful of them that they sent to me, and I've been using this one a ton. I'm able to use this cable to plug directly into my studio display, and it also has a 20 gigabit transfer speed. All that, and it stays clean and out of the way. These cables are fast and awesome, and they stay out of the way. It really helps with cable management. I highly recommend them. Thank you so much to Magtame for sending them to me, and if you guys want to check them out, I have a couple of my favorites in the description. If you end up buying one, it helps out the channel a ton. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the video. If you're like me or a lot of the creators I know and work with generally, you'll find that the normal workhorse machine that somebody's using is a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro. This is great because it allows us to do our work anywhere we go, anytime we need to, and that's awesome. But as much as we'd like to be on the go doing awesome things all the time, we end up spending a lot of time at a desk at home or at our dining room table on the laptop, working away, video editing, doing whatever we do. And if you've done any long-term working on a MacBook or a laptop in general, you will know that eventually your neck pays for it, and all you will want is a display that is at eye level so you can lift your head. Unfortunately, getting a display for a Mac is more obnoxious than it should be. Mac OS scales really weird, which is why you'll always see Apple displays having a little bit more resolution than normal. It compensates for the scaling that happens on the OS level. This means that getting random displays is generally weird and very uncomfortable. It'll always feel a little bit off, and eventually you just end up switching back to your laptop display, which is generally the better display anyway. This fact makes it really difficult to get a display for a MacBook because Apple really pushes the price up to allow you to purchase a larger display that is even comparable to their laptop displays. So after a lot of waiting and questioning and looking around, I finally splurged and got the Apple Studio display. So now I've had it for about a month. I've had a couple of my fellow creators use it, and just to answer the initial question, does this make your art better? Yes, I fully believe that it does. Now, I do want to point out, I did come from my laptop monitor, but even if I had came from a LG Ultrafine 5K, I still think the answer to that question would be yes. The screen real estate alone adds so much to my workflow. It adds further creative options. It allows me to have thicker edits and be able to see the scale of everything. The color in the display is incredible. It allows me to find more detail in images that I'm editing. I could go on and on about how much this display has added to my day-to-day creative process. And not only is the display beautiful to look at, it's also cleaned up a lot of clutter off of my desk. Up until now, on my desk plugged into my laptop, I had an audio interface and a USB hub plugged into my laptop, powering speakers and all kinds of other accessories, which frankly just sent wires all over my desk. Since getting the display, the speakers have been incredible, and they've replaced my old studio monitors, which now I've sold, and that alone has cleaned up a ton of space on my desk and a ton of wires. The display also has a USB-C hub built right into it, which is amazing. And with the fact that there is fantastic speakers and a great webcam built directly into the display, I have less peripherals to plug in because I don't have my speakers, I don't have my old webcam. It's all built into the display and super minimal. Right now, the only things I have consistently plugged in are my Steam Deck Plus, which I use for hotkeys for video editing and system control, volume knobs and stuff, and my Ethernet adapter. Besides that, it's just one Thunderbolt cable straight into my MacBook. It varies person to person, but I've personally found that a clean desk, a simple, more minimal desk, does so much to assist in my creativity and my productivity, and this monitor does an amazing job in that right. The solid aluminum construction is amazing, the monitor is incredibly minimal, and it just cleans up my desk in a massive way. And on top of all that, it just looks really cool. Not many monitors look this good. I will say there is one thing I wish this monitor really had. Actually, there's technically two things I wish this monitor had. One is 120 hertz. All of the MacBook Pros have ProMotion displays now. Even my iPad Pro has ProMotion display. Seems really weird that the big premium Apple display doesn't have ProMotion or 120 hertz. macOS is already really smooth, and I don't do any gaming on this display, so I guess it doesn't really matter that much, but it would just be kind of nice. The big one, though, that I wish this monitor had was I really, really wish it had the same power adapter as the current iMacs. The Studio Display power adapter is just a big, thick, black cord, plugs directly into the wall. It's nothing special. It doesn't unplug from the display itself, which is kind of weird. It's not a massive issue. You can get it out if you yank it really hard, but you're not really supposed to. The iMac power cable, though, it has a power cable that comes out of the computer and goes down to the ground, and then it goes into a power brick, which then plugs into the wall. In this power brick, though, there is an Ethernet port, which means power and Ethernet come into the display / computer through one cable, which keeps the Ethernet off the desk. It would be incredibly nice to clear up a little bit more of the cables off the desk by having the Ethernet plugged directly into the power adapter near the wall. And it would also clear up one of the USB-C ports on my USB-C dock in the monitor. Because right now, there is an Ethernet to USB-C Anchor adapter plugged into the display, so I get Ethernet on my computer, and I don't think that will ever change. I understand the display was maybe too thin to put an Ethernet port in. I just would have loved if they'd put it into the power adapter like they did with the iMac. That way, I had more USB-C ports for other things. Right now, though, I'm doing a ton of work on this display, and all I can say is it has been incredibly helpful. My video editing has gotten way more complex since getting it because I have more space. I can see more of the timeline at scale. I can go through effects and do more. My photo editing and Photoshop work has gotten way more detailed. The attention to detail is wonderful, especially when you have such a high resolution monitor and you can scale in and get every little detail of shots that you've taken. All in all, the Studio Display is one of the best investments I think I've ever made in my personal work and my art. It just dabbles and helps out in pretty much every aspect of what I do when it's related to computer work. And what's awesome about this all just being a display with good speakers and camera and all that stuff is that I can upgrade computers down the line and I'll still get the same horsepower out of this display. This display basically turns your laptop into an iMac, and it delivers the entire iMac experience down to every little convenient detail. If you've never worked on an iMac, because they don't make iMac Pros anymore, all you need to know is it's easy, it's fast, and it is beautiful. Now, how much money is that experience worth? For me, it was $11.50 open box, and I would honestly say that was a really good price for this monitor. Now, I've got the base model, but I've never really had an issue with the glare, and yeah, I'd like a height adjustable stand, but honestly, I'm just gonna get a monitor stand, and that will solve the problem for far cheaper than Apple is charging. For this base model, I cannot recommend it enough if you're getting it for sub $1,200 US. If you work nonstop, computer work, freelancing, running a business, whatever you do, I cannot recommend getting a nice monitor more. It honestly helps out a ton, and it opens up a lot more creative mileage than you'd expect. The Apple Studio Display is gonna sit on my desk for a very long time, I can promise you. It'll probably hang around until Apple announces the Studio Display 2, and then that display's been out for a couple years and dropped in price. It's pretty awesome. It's basically an iMac Pro, and that's awesome. If you enjoyed the video today, please subscribe. I recently started school, so my video turnout is slowed way down, but I'm working harder on content now to make sure that when it does come out, it is something special. Really excited for my next video. If you do want to hear more from me, though, I am pretty active on Twitter, and all my socials are in the description. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for sitting down and spending some time watching my video. Have a good one.